Welcome to another episode of Last Shot Podcast. I'm your host, Torlin Fitzpatrick, here with my co-host,
Troy Holston Jr.
And today we got a special guest in the building. They call him Air Wands because he's always like so high above the rim. A super athletic guard that played at South Florida, I think between the years of 2010 to 2013. Very, very exciting and explosive player for the Bulls. One of my teammates, someone that I really enjoyed playing with. We have some great memories. Welcome to the chat, guys. Welcome to the podcast, Jawanza Poland. What's up, Wands?
What's going on, Troy? What's going on, Troy, man? Happy and blessed to have for you guys to have me today, man.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you. We appreciate you joining us, man. And we got just a few questions for you. We're going to walk down memory lane with you a little bit. The first question we're going to start off with is, just being as talented individual player as you were, a gifted guard who can create for himself, a lot of skills, a lot of individual talent. What was it like for a player like you to play in a system that we had at South Florida that was more like a half-court place, team style, to where we have like many passes, we're like drowning out the shot clock? What was it like for a player with your ability to play in a system like that at South Florida?
I feel like it was great. It was a great system, great opportunity for, a player of my caliber to play in that type of system because, man, we had such great other players. We had athletic wings, we had post players, we had a point guard that could break down the defense. So, with the half court sets that we would run, I feel like, our coaches put us in opportunities to succeed. And, that's really, in those type of offense was really where I learned how to read the defense and pick and choose my opportunities and things of that sort.
No, that's what's up.
For sure.
I wanted to ask you, Mr. Poland, with being a former Bull, obviously, what was maybe your favorite moment? As being a University of South Florida Bull, share with us something that maybe that stuck with you. Maybe like it could have been a past moment, like in a game, or it could have been off the court. Give us one of your favorite moments as being a Bull.
Yeah, for sure, man. I had such great moments. My 3 years there, we had our ups and downs, but, I definitely would say just being able to experience the March Madness atmosphere, the tournament at the end of the season was, such a great opportunity that I'll cherish and, something that I'll be able to tell my kids and, grandkids that, I was able to experience the, March Madness atmosphere in the tournament, and playing on that big stage, playing on the big stage, on TV, we play, a lot of our games on ESPN each and every night, but, that's just a whole nother level. And, it's crazy to look back and think how, so many players play, Division I, Division II, Division whatever basketball, but they're never able to experience that March Madness tournament. So it's something that I'll, cherish and never forget for the rest of my life. And something that, like I said, I'll be able to tell my kids and, any player that I train or work with, any team that I coach, those are experiences that I'll be able to, share with them, for the rest of my life.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great moment. And like you said, not a lot of people do get to experience playing in March Madness. Myself personally, I've being a former Bull as well. Like I never made it to March Madness. So, I tried to reach those heights that the team of 2012 that you and Torlin played on, did, and never got to accomplish that. But, it's definitely a great moment to, live. And I wish I was able to do that, but
yeah, it was a special time, and we had a lot of great memories during that period, once, and I'm pretty sure some that we can speak about and some that maybe we can't, but we definitely have a lot of memories together, once. But I want to ask you about life post graduation. So I've already mentioned to you that you were an extreme talent, very gifted player, probably could have played at every level there is. Like you were that type of talent. I want to ask you about your experience after USF, What happened after graduation? And I know that you had a short professional stint overseas, but talk to us about your journey with that and why you kind of decided to not pursue that any further.
Yeah, so after graduation, I was such a home baby that I rushed back home to see my parents, be with my family, and just take in the whole college basketball experience, and spend time with some of my friends and family back home. But I got to work and trained and worked out for because I knew I was going to be able to go to that next level, play professionally somewhere, and things of that sort. But just to sum it up, I had I had a few brief stints in Israel and in Switzerland, and then I played in Mexico, for like a year. And those are great opportunities and great experiences. Beautiful countries, and I was able to meet a lot of great people. But just sometimes, some things, all good things come to an end, sadly but surely. But and I just decided to kind of hang them up a little bit early than what I really wanted to. But life and God just sent me in that direction. And it was they were great experiences, and like I said, something I'll be able to tell my kids about. But sometimes God just puts you in a different direction, and you never want to tell him no. So but it was great while it lasted. And now I feel like I work with kids, whether individual training, basketball. We actually have a camp coming up this summer in August with a friend of mine's foundation, just a kid from Wichita Foundation, where we get back to the community with basketball camps and things of that sort. And that's kind of just where my direction has been gone, where I've been going. And yeah, basically what I'm up to now, just individual training, working in camps, working with just a kid from Wichita Foundation, and just trying to get back to the community. I feel like once I because my I feel like I hung them up. It was kind of like an injury that led to that situation. I felt like once I got back to America, it took me a while. I kind of sobbed here and there for a little bit, but I got encouragement from family and friends, and just the opportunities, just from playing Division 1, playing at USF. Everybody in my city really knew who I was, and it was just handouts of opportunities to go work here or do this here, or work and team up with this foundation or something that it made it easy to move on from the game of basketball. And it kind of took me like a year or two, but once I got into basketball training, once I got into working with teams, summer teams, and coaching a little bit here and there, and that kind of made the transition a lot better. And I left basketball and went to work in my school district, for a couple years. So I was still around kids, but just those stories and that I was able to tell these kids, and just the experiences that I've had, my 15, 20-year basketball career, made it a lot easier
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
I relate to that totally, man, because since I retired from playing ball, which was not something that I planned for, it just kind of like just happened. And then I found myself like, well, now what do I do? And I struggled with that for a little bit, bro. Like I had a lot of people willing to help, and even to this day, people they're offering to help me, but if you don't really know what to do or you don't have a direction for yourself, like you can't even like receive help, which is like I'm noticing now, because a lot of people, they might call me and they be like, well, T, what you want to do? Like I know this person or I know that person. And it's like, well, I can't really answer that question because I did what I wanted to do for over 10 years of my life, and I was loving it. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And although I had a plan for once I retired, that time was not now in my mind. So I was planning for, a more safe or smoother landing and a smoother transition. But, life happens to all of us, and like you kind of find yourself in a situation where like you kind of have to figure things out. And, I haven't really felt good about myself personally or just my future in general since I started working with kids again, trying to show them basketball. And also not only that, starting a podcast that gives information to my demographic or people that are in my network, which is former players or current players, young players. Like I want people to, log on and look at my show and normally take something away that they can apply, to their journey, whether it's personal in sports or outside of sports in their everyday life. So hearing from guys like you, hearing your story, hearing like kind of what you've experienced, there is a small ounce of healing in like other people's story. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily have to learn a lesson the hard way by going through it. You can hear somebody else's story and possibly, learn a lesson just by someone else's testimony. You know what I mean? So I love to hear that you're working with kids. Yeah, I love to hear that you're working with kids, that you're around the game, and that you can kind of give some of your knowledge to them because it's important. Somebody gave that knowledge to you when you were young. So, we kind of have to pay it forward. So I love to hear that you're doing that, man.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like you said, it was hard. But like I said, another thing was, after basketball, I started going back to my church, and it seemed like everybody in my church was like, "Hey, we want you to come talk to this team, or we want you to come help and train with these kids, or we want you to come and do something here or there." And they really made the transition. My Lord and Savior really put me on a path that he knew I would succeed, and it just made the transition so much better. Your family, your community, everybody coming to help you out in a time of need, and it just makes everything that much better.
Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
that's when you find out your true influence really. But like you're like down and like you are forced to ask for help, and then like so many people like pick up the phone for you and like extend a hand to help you out. It's like dang, like I didn't even realize so many people cared about me. You know what I mean? So that's a real
It's
eye
crazy,
opener. Yeah, it's
man.
crazy, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy the effect that we had when we were in college, on our communities, and just whether it's the high schools or just the old summer teams that we played for, how they were paying attention to what we were doing, and really, really locking in. And once we came back, they had so many things to say, and just wanted to relive those memories and those stories with us. And it's crazy the impact that we had.
Yeah,
For
right.
sure.
Yeah. Now this last question I'm gonna hit you with. I know I sent you the questions to clear it, but this is something that everybody wants to know. This is something everybody want to know. Troy, do you know the year that we went to the tournament? We were in the conference tournament playing against Notre Dame in the quarterfinals, and we nearly won that game to go to the semifinal.
I remember.
Do you remember what happened during that game?
I sure do. And can I say what happened?
Say what happened.
So I remember watching the game vividly. I was in high school, right, watching you guys on that run and the legendary run. And one play that stuck out with me was you. I think you was coming in down in transition or something, and you ended up dunking that. You know what I'm saying? Like you ended up slamming it, bro, and hung on the rim a little bit. And they ended up calling it tech. Didn't they end up calling it tech?
Yeah, I don't know if there was that play.
I
I
think
know
they,
that he had received a tech maybe during the tournament, but during the Notre Dame game, we had an opportunity to seal the game. Like we're in the clinch moment, so it's crunch time, it's money time. We actually ahead, but we're barely ahead because they're making a comeback. And I think Jawanza either gets a steal or we steal the ball and we give it up to Jawanza, and Jawanza has the most bounce out of everybody on the team.
100%.
So he goes up and he goes to dunk it, and he missed the dunk. He hasn't missed a dunk all season long. You know what I mean? Especially wide open like this. Like, and he misses it, and then things happen. Maybe he comes down and fouls, and they go to the free throw line. It's just then they start to make their run. So instead of closing out the game like with a momentum play, a huge highlight dunk, we missed the dunk, we come down and foul, and then they start to make their run, and we end up losing that game for an opportunity to go to semifinals. Wanz, what can you share with us about that moment? Do you remember that moment? Like what do you remember about that, bro?
Man, no. Man, I kind of just charged it to the game. Man, you win some, you lose some, man. I think we broke the press or something, and I was able to get a open way to the rim, and I kind of went up, but I had somebody behind me that I didn't want to block, so I think I kind of tried to reverse it and go underneath, but I missed it, and it was a pivotal play in that game, and it would have put us on an even bigger stage and gave us even more confidence going heading into the March Madness tournament and things. And I kind of just sometimes you just gotta charge it to the game. You win some, you lose some. You know, I know from that point on, I thought about I should have just went up and dunked it. I had people calling me the next day like, "Why you didn't dunk it, man? Your name is Jawanza. Why you didn't dunk it, man?" But yeah, man, it's just something that one of those moments and stories I'll be able to tell, kids and teens, years later that, I was in Madison Square Garden. Take it. This is Madison Square Garden. We on the mecca of basketball, and and it's a big stage, and sometimes you just get, stage fright, or I guess you could say. But I always tell people that, you win some, you lose some. I missed that layup, but I remember I hit a big shot against Louisville, one of our road wins against a ranked Louisville team that, kind of, you know, put us in the path toward making the tournament that year. So I kind of, sometimes you just got to charge it to the game, man.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, bro. Because there's definitely highs and lows that come with the game, and we've all had our great moments, and then we've all had our not so great moments. But that moment right there is something that Bulls fans remember to this day, and I know that for a fact because the one time that I was able to come back around to go to a game and be around like Bulls fans and people that's followed the school for years, bro. That was one of the things that they asked me when they asked about what players I was still in contact with. So I mentioned Gus and Ron and AC and some of my other friends, and I mentioned Wanz. As soon as I mentioned you, bro, that was the first thing that they said. Was like, "Hey, man, do you ever talk to him about that moment?" So I had to bring it up just for the real Bulls fans who were locked in and tuned in to that journey and was with us during that time. So thank you for being a good sport about it and answering that question, Wanz. But it's been a great time catching up with you, and we appreciate you joining us here today at Last Shot, bro.
Oh yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's a blessing to just be on a podcast representing my alma mater USF, and I truly thank you and I appreciate it, man. It's good to see you guys. Good to see you, Toilet, man, and hopefully we could do this again or something.
So if I hit you to come back, you gonna spin the block?
Oh yeah, man. Just let me know ahead of time, man, so I can prepare. And man, I'm there, man. I'm there, ready to go, man.
All right, we definitely got to do this again. Like once we kind of establish our voice. Me and Troy are still working through this thing, but so far it's been great, and we're having fun with it. So further along the line, when we get better at what we're doing, we got to have you back, bro, to come talk to us again, man.
Oh yeah, man. I'll definitely will surely come back, man. Help out my guy T Fitz, man. Anything you need, man. Just let me know.
Yes, sir. And hey, Troy, that's been another episode of Last Shot Podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you don't do anything else, Real Tampa, put 813 in the chat. Real South Florida, horns up in the chat.
Horns up in the chat,
Let's
man.
go. Where them horns at, Wanz? Get them up, baby. All right. Thank you, Wanz. Appreciate you,
Go
boy.
Bulls.
Go Bulls, boy.
Already. Love, man. Love.
Love.